Good morning.
Good morning.
From a rather wet and windy Gaspé.
It's par for the course.
Yes.
It's got to rain sometimes.
That's right.
We're here at the Berceau du Canada.
In English, it's Birthplace of Canada. And they call it that because in July 1534, this is where Jacques Cartier, who was a French explorer, first entered the harbor here. And when he did that, he erected a cross to claim this territory for the King of France. There were already Mi'kmaq people living here, and so they would have made contact with these Europeans. And now they have reconstructed the village of Gaspe, kind of the heart of the village here, in 7 buildings. And it's meant to show what Gaspe would have looked like around the year 1900. I'm sure it would have been rainy because as I'm talking, it has gone from spitting to now, I don't even know if you can see me because the lens is covered in water. Anyway,
And so are we.
Exactly. So we thought this would be a great place to start this rather rainy day. We have our own exploring to do, so we're going to set out and continue our day exploring the Gaspésie. After that rain, we decided we needed to get something to warm up, so we came straight to get some lattes. And this is Café des Artistes. I think it's safe to say this has become our favorite place in Gaspe.
Definitely.
This is our 3rd time here in 2 days, so we clearly like the food and the drinks, and the people here are really lovely too.
And it's really interesting inside. There's a lot of different sculptures and paintings. And so anyone who's interested in art will absolutely love this place because everywhere you look, there's something unique and interesting to see. And the building has an interesting history.
Yeah, this used to be the town hall, and it's on this really pretty part of the main street. And something that we didn't realize until just now is that there's also a wooden cross outside, much like the one we just saw down at the harbor. So obviously this is a really important part of the local history and kind of links back to where we started. So we're gonna take our lattes and hope for better weather and continue on the road.
Wish us luck.
Cheers.
Cheers.
A hopeful cheers.
All right, so we were cruising along and we came upon this place called Pak Bowl, which means somewhere between like a cargo ship and a cruise ship.
Yeah, and honestly it was the smell that brought us in.
It was.
Because we have our coffees and we were just kind of walking back to our car along this main street. And I said to Mark, that smells amazing. I think I need to go in where that smell is coming from. So we went in and it's this really cool coffee shop and they serve food as well.
Yeah.
And they have hats and other merch for sale.
Ooh, nice toque. It looks good.
And
there was a DJ spinning vinyls and they roast their own coffee.
Yeah.
Just a really good vibe inside.
Yeah, so if you're here, there's another recommendation for you. And I really like my toque.
I do. I like mine too.
Had to upgrade my toque for this colder weather.
A little warmer.
So anyway, it's always nice when you're just walking along and you discover a real gem. It's a good feeling.
You know we love history, so we wanted to stop here at the Musée de la Gaspésie on our way out of town.
Yeah, there's a lot of history in this region, so we're stopping here to learn a little bit more. I think it's fair to say we appreciate a multimedia exhibition.
Yes, big fan.
Mark's loving it.
That music? Ba, 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 ba.
His inner drum, Mark's a drummer. His inner drummer's coming out.
Yeah.
This museum has 4 different exhibitions on at the moment, and this one talks about the history of different people who visited here and inhabited these lands, from the Aboriginal people to the Vikings, to the French, to the British. And And it's interesting because you may know that Mark and I have Icelandic heritage and we met in Iceland, so we're always particularly interested in Viking history. And my understanding is that there's no evidence that the Vikings visited the Gaspe Peninsula. We know that they visited Newfoundland in Canada, for example, but there's a lot of speculation about, because they were explorers around the year 1000, a lot of speculation that maybe they did visit the Gaspe Peninsula. So it's just interesting to think that maybe someday we'll find evidence that they did land here. It says these pictures are living portraits. If you're a Harry Potter fan, then like me, your first thought might be, are these portraits gonna start talking to me? Because that would be great. So there's a little sign here that says to pass your hand in front of French or English. So I'm gonna try it and see if they come to life.
Okay.
Oh.
Does Mr. Cartier make the European fishermen? Well, they really don't matter at all.
This is so cool. Oh, he just moved from this one to this
I
one.
don't find gold on the passage to Asia.
But it's your encounter with the Europeans and Enigma that we remember today.
This is so cool. So they do come to life, and now there's different pictures, and they're talking to each other from different frames about the history of the Mi'kmaq Aboriginal people. Okay, Harry Potter fantasy fulfilled for today. C'est aussi en français, si vous balayez la main ici.
Je crois qu'ils apprécieraient votre intérêt pour leur langue.
This portrait's got me kind of jazzed up here, guys. I love when they find different fun ways of explaining history. I'm totally nerding out here, but I just love that. It's so interesting. And it's so interactive too. You just wave your hand over the language that you want. So cool. We're at a part of the museum where they're talking about World War II history, and in 1942, a German torpedo missed its target and hit the headland at Saint Yvon, and it shattered windows and caused the houses there to shake, and one of the residents set out to find the torpedo, and he did. This is the torpedo behind me. You can still see it. He had it in a shed behind his house for about 40 years and called it the smallest museum in the world. So definitely a steward of his own local history. Now you can see what's left of the torpedo here at the museum in Gaspe. In my opinion, one of the coolest exhibits at this museum is actually outside. It's right behind me. This is the only authentic historical boat in this region. It's called La Gaspésienne number 20. And not too long ago, this was completely refurbished by a group of volunteers from this community who are passionate about preserving their maritime heritage. This boat has the original colors, the original fishing gear, so we're grateful that it's been restored for us to see here.
I've clearly never driven a boat before.
Even though you have your boating license?
Even though I have my boating license.
I thoroughly enjoyed that museum. I really appreciated having a chance to get a kind of overview of the history in this area. From 380 million years ago, then to the history of Aboriginal people over thousands of years ago, right up to the present day. And the storytelling that they use in the museum is really helpful. A lot of multimedia exhibitions. They even had a VR experience that you could do. And it's just helpful when you're trying to take on a lot of new information to have the storytellings told in such a visual way, especially if you're a visual person like I am. And outside the museum, there's another cross commemorating Jacques Cartier's arrival on July 19, 1534. And there's also the Jacques Cartier monument right next to the museum, where they have different sculptures kind of telling the story of that arrival. Cartier met with the Indigenous people who were already living here, and he stayed here on that trip for 11 days. So it's interesting to see that as well. For me, one of the most fascinating things that they had at the museum was that German torpedo. And right now we're heading to Fort Peninsula to see the remains of a World War II naval base. We're at a really interesting place called Fort Peninsula that I don't think I've ever heard of. There were German submarines, U-boats, that came into the St. Lawrence, into Gaspe Bay, and over the course of several years, they actually sunk 23 ships within sight of Canadian shores. And there were many instances of Gaspésie fishermen getting in between these kind of merchant ships that were on their way to deliver cargo to the Allies in Europe, and these German U-boats that were trying to prevent that from happening. And they were kind of caught in the crossfire. And here you can see the only World War II shore battery that has been completely preserved and is open to the public here in Quebec. And this here is really the last vestige of the Gaspé Naval Base. Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
unbelievable to see this here.
I absolutely did not expect this, and it's so well preserved. And you can see all of, as you kind of walk along this path, you can see where they keep like the ammunition or different storage units for different supplies that they needed. And then we just come onto this huge open space. Obviously, a cannon made in 1902. Projectile, 45-pound high explosive shell right into the bay. We're back on the road now, as you can see, making our way towards Canada's tallest lighthouse. Slightly windy for our stop at Cap de Rosier. This is Canada's tallest lighthouse. It was built in 1858 and it's 112 feet tall. The walls are 7 feet thick at the base, tapering to 3 feet at the top, and the foundations extend 8 feet beneath the ground. Originally, there was a dwelling attached to this tower, and the light is 136 feet above the water. Would change drivers as we go to a gravel road.
Straddling the edge of a cliff.
I really know how to pick my timing.
It's basically a sheer drop.
Enjoying being a passenger there, Mark?
Just stay the course.
As you might imagine, when you're driving along the coast of the Gaspe Peninsula, there are many, many lighthouses to be found. This is another spectacular one. This is called Pointe de la Renommée. This one we can actually go inside, so we're gonna go down and take a look. We're in the base of the lighthouse. You can see the stairs leading up behind me, so we're gonna head up to the top. Oh, wow! Oh, this is so cool. Should we go up even further?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now we go to the tippy top of the top.
Oh, we're at like the very top?
Yeah, the tippy top.
The tippy top.
Oh wow, look at the light!
Oh, that's so cool.
That's incredible. Wow. That is gorgeous. Unbelievable. And obviously a 360-degree view. There's been a lighthouse here since the late 1800s, and normally, I think it's safe to say, when a lighthouse is placed in a certain spot, it tends to stay in that spot. That's not the case for this lighthouse. This lighthouse was in operation for many, many, many years, providing all sorts of services. And in 1977, after it wasn't being used any longer, the government moved it from here, where it had stood and been a part of the local community for so long, and moved it all the way to Quebec City, where it stood sort of as decoration on the street in downtown Quebec City for 20 years. 3 local women formed a committee and decided that it was time to bring the lighthouse home. And after 5 years of trying, they were successful. And it's very emotional because after 20 years, this lighthouse made its way back from Quebec City to here, standing on the water where it had been watching over for so long. And it's a good lesson, I think, in also when communities work together, that they can really accomplish anything. And it must have seemed impossible at the time to accomplish such a task of getting a giant lighthouse from downtown Quebec City, hundreds of kilometers down to the coast of the Gaspe. And it just shows anything is possible. The lighthouse itself isn't the only thing here that has got a lot of miles under its belt. This light came all the way from France. It was shipped across the Atlantic. It was made in Paris. And you can actually see on this beautiful light the stamps from the place that made the light. And the craftsmanship and all of the small details just add to making this lighthouse so special. To me, lighthouses are such hopeful things, guiding sailors back from sea, shining on and reaching out during every storm. This lighthouse has traveled more than most, and we're all really just travelers who spend our lives looking for a light like this to bring us home. The drive that we're on right now is supposed to be the most scenic of the entire peninsula, and unfortunately that has coincided with the worst visibility that we have experienced so far on this road trip. We can barely see in front of us, let alone any distance. So we're hoping it clears and or that we have another opportunity to see these views.
We're concluding our lighthouse tour for the day here at Cap de la Madeleine. This beautiful thing was built in 1908, and as far as we know, it's never left its original home, unlike the last one.
That's very true. And this one here is standing right at the mouth to the St. Lawrence River here in the upper Gaspésie region. And it's well acknowledged that the waters here start to get a lot more hazardous to navigate. And so the placement of this lighthouse was very, very strategic, and it basically allowed commercial ships to come through safely, and it contributed to the economic development and wealth of Montreal and also the Great Lakes region. So this lighthouse has worked very hard, and we owe it a lot of thanks. It's very rainy. It feels like
it's very full circle from this morning. Yes, absolutely.
We're gonna end how we started, but Dolly Parton says you gotta put up with a little rain to get the rainbows. And we've had a lot of rainbows today, including the surprise of seeing whales just off the water here at Cap de la Madeleine. So a wonderful day. Wow. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it as well. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe for lots more travel adventures, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye. Bye.